Can you hear me now? Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Thank you. He is not.
Did everybody who wants to speak tonight sign up somewhere on one of these ones? I think I did already. You did?
He's not on yet, though.
No, but.
We still have a minute.
Yeah, we still have a minute, but I think we can get started. He'll walk in. Yeah.
Okay. I will call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. If you all would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Heather, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Queenie Barnes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Here.
Trustee Ed Allen.
Here.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Here.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Here.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Here.
Trustee Brenda Ford.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we will be able to continue on. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Here we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks and a second by Trustee Brent McWhirter to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sound. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of January 13th, 2021, and I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes with the addition of Ed Hallam being the trustee making the adjournment motion.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Cindy Simpson and a second by Trustee Brent McWhirter to accept the minutes of January 13th, 2021, except adding that Ed Hallam made the motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sound. Okay, minutes approved as corrected. Okay, next on the agenda is we're going to swear in our new deputy. And David, would you come to the front? So you will raise your right hand and repeat after me and you'll say I and also put your name in.
Aye. David Martin.
Do solemnly swear that I will support
Do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
of America
of America
and the state of Colorado
and the state of Colorado
and the ordinances of the town of Mancos,
and the ordinances of the town of Mancos,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties
the duties
of the office
of the office
of Deputy Marshal
of Deputy Marshal
upon which I have been appointed.
upon which I have been.
Okay. Congratulations.
Don't stab them.
It's gonna get some.
Too hard.
Welcome.
David? Whether you have the official oath that you pass besides, I don't, it's in my thing here, okay. Never mind. Let me sign this and then you give it to him.
Yes, please. You can just leave it in your folder. I'll get it after the meeting and have it.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Okay. Welcome, David. All right. Next on the agenda is the proclamation, and I will try to read this proclamation so everybody can hear me. Town of Mancos Proclamation of Recognition and Appreciation. Whereas, from the time Ophelia Mack Neely arrived in Mancos via AmeriCorps in 1995, our town has never been the same. And whereas Mac's grant writing abilities soon resulted in GoPro funding for our very own Mancos Riverwalk behind the high school. And whereas, as president of the Mancos Chamber of Commerce, Mac in 2001 and 2003 shepherded on projects with her motto, just do it. And whereas Mac, as membership chair of the Mancos Valley Historical Society, hosted the annual fundraising yard sales. And whereas her boundless energy flowed through businesses and residents alike, rewarding the town with Grand Avenue decorations for Cinco de Mayo, the first children's vegetable garden next to the school campus. And whereas, even after being named Mancos Citizen of the Year in 2011, Mac's community spirit yielded further events such as lighted Christmas trees in snowy Boyle Park, and yet another, this one for the elementary students, annual breakfasts with Santa at the ABC. And whereas now a resident of the Valley Inn, Mac has acted as an unofficial new resident reader and continues with her love of gardening by planning for the annual flower box planners. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Queenie Bars, Mayor of Mancos, do hereby proclaim this day her 100th birthday, January 27th, 2021, as Mac Neely Day in Mancos. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of Mancos to be herein affixed. And this was read and given to Max today at the Valley Inn during the parade, and then we're making it official tonight. Okay. I hope I'm as active as she is when I'm 100. Okay, next on the agenda is audience business, and okay, we've got the public hearings, so I don't know if Lynn Clark, you signed up, is that for audience business or is that for something on the agenda? Is that for the public hearing? 862 Grand Avenue? Okay, are you here for the public hearing or here for something else? Okay, I'm the wrong one then. Okay. Golden Starnes, are you here for?
Also the public hearing.
Okay. Don Mckenna?
Public hearing.
Dianne Perrinello?
Yes, public hearing.
Okay. And Marlis, you're here for the public hearing. Okay. All right. So, do you have anybody that is here that wants to speak on audience business that is not on the agenda? Okay. Moving right along to announcements.
I just have one. We did receive construction authorization from CDOT on the Main Street Bridge, but we have not received notice to proceed. We we were negotiating traffic control today. And CDOT has agreed to allow the town to handle traffic control rather than having to bid it out. So that saves us between $50,000 and $75,000 on that project. Now that we have that negotiation complete, I'm hoping to have notice to proceed for construction. We have to tweak the plans a little bit to get traffic control out of there, but I am hoping to have notice to proceed in the next week or so. So that's the only thing I have today.
Okay, anybody else from the board have any announcements? Okay, moving right along, we have the committee reports of the Montezuma County Planning Commission. I attended that meeting. It was a pretty short meeting. They had a couple public hearings on annexation, not annexations, on developments, and then they talked about the 1 and the 3 mile plan that the city had given them, and they're going to do more research on that and make some suggestions to the commissioners. Next meeting will be the second Thursday in February.
Queen,
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're still advertising a vacant position on the
Oh, that's right, they are.
Planning Commission, so if anybody's interested, you can submit a letter of interest
Right.
to Montezuma County for that planning commission.
Right. And then now the Mancos School District.
I listened to the meetings on Facebook the last couple times, and I still am having a really hard time following what's being said. Just the sound issue is pretty bad. And so maybe I'll reach out to Brian and see if we can work out something where I can get minutes or something from them. Because I just, it's really hard with their system, that the way it's set up, to hear it through the Facebook Live.
Did you listen to the meeting that Monday regarding the
Superintendent? Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I was listening to that, and again, the sound was cutting in and out on my stream. So I'm going to try to get some minutes from them.
Okay. All right. If there's
And
something in those that you think we might need, let me know, okay? All right, next on the agenda is discussion and action items. The first thing on the agenda is the public hearing for Green Kiwi 5 LLC, DBA Livewell, change of location. And I will, before we get started on this, before I open the public hearing, I want to remind the board members that this is a quasi-judicial item. We will only make decisions based on the facts presented to us during this public hearing. We are not allowed to use our personal feelings or viewpoints during the discussion or decision, okay? And that's to the board members. Okay, so Heather, do you want to open this up first, and then we will discuss it, and then we'll open the public hearing?
You want me to introduce?
Okay, please introduce it first.
We have received a transfer application from Livewell to move from their current location that they share with B&M Auto, which used to be Gary's Repair, to the corner of the Highway 161 and 4, which used to be Grove. I've reviewed the application. It's complete. All fees are paid. I did include in my staff report a chart where I pulled out all the sections of our code that apply to this, and just made notes, like the code section, the title, and then notes that says yes, it complies, or no, it doesn't. So for example, in your packet, I don't include the security plan, because that's not public record, but I did note that I did receive it with the application. So that's the short story right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Or if you want to wait until after the public hearing, whatever's, yes.
If I may. Could you just talk to us a little bit about the measuring, because that came up in several letters to us, and can you give us a little history on why we measure it the way we measured it in the packet?
Yes. So the distance calculation for liquor licenses, medical marijuana licenses, and retail marijuana licenses is all the same. How we calculate the distance is the same. The distance, the minimum distance varies depending on the type of application. but how we measure the distance has been in effect since we allowed this, I think maybe 2012, 2014, 15, somewhere in there. And we measure from the nearest point of building, straight lines, pedestrian access, like I won't cut across private property, that kind of thing. And it's called out in our code, in several sections of our code, it specifically states, depending on what type of license I'm looking at, how I'm supposed to measure the distance. So every liquor license or marijuana license in town, I measure them all the same. And then depending, liquor licenses may be 200 feet from the school, marijuana is 1,000 feet from the school. So the distance, minimum distance may change, but how I measure doesn't.
Okay, so the way you measured for this is consistent with the way you've measured for liquor licenses
Bud
and,
Farm, Blend, Mesa Verde,
yeah, okay,
the liquor stores, yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right, so I will then open the public hearing at 7:15. And so, okay, you guys signed up on both of these, okay. Lynn, is it Lynn? What's your last name? Clay, okay. Would you come to the podium? You have 5 minutes, and state your name and address for the record, please.
Can everybody hear me, or?
You are to address the board, not the audience, because we're the ones that are making the decision. So we need to talk to the board, okay?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Mancos City Council. I am from Mancos, and I live at 862 Grand Avenue. And so anyhow, I just wanted to say hello to everyone here in the town. I would like to address the following state statutes that are Colorado state laws that come in accordance to, or come not in accordance, but are part of the statutes for the state law proposed for the dispensary. My concern, or a lot of people's concern, is it's the business location, which is on Main Avenue, the safety for the evacuation route for the children, the elementary children, the middle school, the high school. It is en route to that emergency evacuation that they do. I used to be a bus driver here in the past, and so that might be a concern to look at. And the statute number was 10-1001 and 10014. And these all come from the Marijuana Enforcement Division. And so I've done my homework on them. Also about the footage law from what we call the old Millwood Junction building that we're all discussing about for a dispensary. The 1,000 foot rule is for schools, but do they address that for municipalities such as our park here? Also the ambulance building, it's closer than 1,000 feet, I believe. So I think those might be in conflict with one of the state statutes. The second thing that I wanted to address was the application procedures with the documentation in place, state statute R3021CC. The relocation change from one building to another, is that within the state statute? That's my question. And so my concern is all the school children, you know, if they have an emergency evacuation, if there's a fire in Mancos, if there's an emergency where the ambulance has to go out on Main Avenue and get out there on the highway. How do you do that with the dispensary where the location is? And I think that people need to think about that because it's the whole community. It's all our children in the community. And also, the other thing that might be in violation is Colorado State Statute 1 CCR 212-2, because it's so close to our park, which everyone has been very concerned about the pesticides that have been being sprayed in the park for years. That pesticide can affect that too, with people and their health. And that's one of the laws. I also have all these copies of all of this right here that I can hand out to you. There's 8 of them. And that's it. I'm just, I'm bringing these things up because I think that we really need to look at it as a community and discuss it. And I thank you for your interest. Is that okay if I give you these?
Yes, we should you give word to Heather?
Let me just walk them over? Or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Golden Starnes. You would state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to hear the public. My name is Golden Starnes. I live at 15586 Road 35 in Mancos, Colorado. I happen to be part owner of Blend LLC, which is another recreational marijuana here in town. I understand very well the reasons why Livewell would want to switch locations to the Millwood building. It's essentially the centerpiece of the town, at least from a standpoint of the traffic that goes by every day, and as such would be a wonderful location for any business, especially for those of us in retail. Better recognition as a result of location will automatically provide a boost to a retail business. That being said, I am against this location change for one reason. I do not believe it to be outside of the 500-foot distance of a public park. From what I understand, the rules state that a measurement must be made from the closest point of the building, the Millwood in this case itself, to the closest boundary of a public park without cutting through alleys or other parking lots. I'm going to stress the word closest here. I've been made aware that within the packet that the board has, there should be 2 measurements. One from a surveyor that states it should be 511 feet away, and another from Heather, who did her own measurement and came up with one of, I believe, 508 feet. I also took the liberty of measuring with the measuring wheel, and I measured several times, back and forth from different distances, taking different routes. And really, there's only one route to take, which is going, if you're from the Millwood, you're going south on Main, and then turning east on Bower until you hit the boundary. I suppose what I'm questioning, though, is how generous you are with the measurement. The shortest one I came up with was at 433 feet. And what I did basically step by step, I started from the park boundary, heading west on Bower Avenue on the north side of the street, which I think is important. I crossed Main Street and then turned north on Main using the sidewalk on the west side of the street, and then turning left into the parking lot of the proposed location. And I stopped at the furthest west end of a log that's used as a parking block. From where I stood, my measurement was 433 feet. And from what I could see, I do not believe that I was any further than 25 feet away from the building itself, and I believe that I'm being generous with that estimate. So I have an estimate of only 458 feet. There's definitely a large gap between 458 feet to 511 feet. And I'd really like to understand why. I think the time should be taken to determine a single measurement that's accurate. I also think that the measurement used should be the shortest possible, again stressing the word closest, within the boundaries of the town ordinances. These rules and ordinances were created to be specifically followed. They are not guidelines. I would urge you to consider the distance from the building to the park and ask yourselves the following questions. How do you determine the route to take? And ultimately, which measurement is used? Why should you be generous with a measurement of distance? Shouldn't your determination be made with accuracy? And finally, if multiple measurements have been made, each resulting in different proposed distances, can you determine with confidence that the correct distance has indeed been proposed? Again, thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Don Mckenna. State your name and address, please.
My name is Donald Mckenna. I live at 9150 Road 39 in Mancos. I've been asked by my friends to address the group tonight. My friends include residents, business owners, business men and women, artists that use the downtown to sell their products, and in general, all those that see Mancos as a destination as well as home. We are an objection to putting Livewell on basically the front door, the opening door, and the greeting card to Mancos for a variety of reasons. First, I just want to address, thank you very much for the definition of the measurement, but I also thank very much for Golden's insight in here. I have one other little remark to maybe add to it. The distance from the nearest park to the building seems counterintuitive to me, even though it's in the statute, and I'll give you a reason why. From the building, as it's measured in the map, from the building corner to the property line crosses a driveway and also is going to be where the front entrance of the building is. There isn't any way for the public to negotiate that sidewalk across there without crossing the patrons or the parking traffic of Livewell. To go all the way to the building just seems to be counterintuitive because the public is going to be involved at the corner where the driveway comes out. So that's all I have there. In reading the report, I don't see anything that talks about proximity to residential areas. It says it's not within a residential zone, but there's nothing that talks about proximity to the Bower House or the fact that that's a residence. If there is some kind of statute, I would like to see if it meets that requirement. The other thing is that there is no indication that the building or the intended use meets the parking requirements. Now, I don't know what the parking requirements are for the town, but I would only assume that they have some. The building on site doesn't allow for a lot of parking. Having designed it, it doesn't look like it. Millwood had a parking easement, a grant from the adjoining owner to provide parking for the restaurant business. You also have no parking on the curb. So I would ask, how is Livewell going to meet the parking requirements of the town and have that indicated? Also, the floor plan shows a 3,400 something square foot building, and that there's a restriction that any kind of expansion be limited to 5,000 square feet. If 3,400 doesn't meet parking requirements, how will 5,000? And if this were another business, would this parking requirement be imposed and more strictly enforced? If that's the case, it wouldn't be fair to make accommodations for Livewell, a higher traffic business, than for another business that might also want to be there. In looking over the floor plan, having worked with architecture and stuff, one of the things I'd be concerned about is the change of use, provoking other aspects of the code that building probably was not built for, which would include sprinklering, alarms, access, emergency exit, all that kind of stuff. I know that wasn't part of the review, but it'd be interesting to find out if that building can be made to work well within any kind of budget. Livewell has stated that they're earmarking $800,000 for improvements and for landscaping. My question to them is, how will that benefit any of the people downtown, including the business owners, the artists? We have 6 galleries in one block in Mancos. We have over 300 artists that live in this valley. and depend on the downtown area for their sustenance. Everybody that I talk to, including the owners of the galleries and stuff, look more to this being made a destination. We already have started it to be an artist destination, a
35
crafts
seconds.
destination, and a food destination. And so the question is, how would Livewell actually benefit, and what's that 800,000 going to look like? In summation, we from the very beginning have objected to Livewell going into the front door of the community. We can't see any long-term benefit to the town. In fact, we see a wonderful option.
10 seconds.
Opportunity being wasted and we'd never be able to get it back. So I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the list is Dianne Perrinello.
Hello, and my name is Dianne Perrinello, and I'm at 40514 County Road G, Mancos. I'm actually going to speak not from all the technical terms of the values of street space and things like that. I'm going to talk to you from another perspective, and that is the significance of what the Millwood has been to this town. And I am from New York. I have gone to many, many restaurants. I've lived in California. I've been at the best restaurants in California. And I moved to Mancos for a very specific reason. I moved here because Mancos had a quality of life that was still significant. And I see that quality of life as something that is important for us to hold for future generations, like that wonderful child that was here with his mom. Because without us not looking at what is valuable in life, we're going to mess up. Our government has already done that. If you look at the havoc, it's based in values that I personally do not hold. I don't hold those values. I don't judge and make my decisions on dollar values. I make my decisions in another way. What is the value and quality that I bring to the people that are in my life? And the Millwood has that kind of significance. Why? Because people come from all over the world and they go up to Mesa Verde. And they go up there to look at the ruins of Mesa Verde for a very specific reason, because it's a history and it has significance. They want to see it. Well, the Millwood has that kind of significance to the people in this area. Why? Because do you know that the Millwood wood comes from barns all over this Mancos area? It did. That's important. It has an energy to it. When I went in there, I felt like as if I was in something that was not just a building, that it was made up of someone who cared about what people were going to be doing there. And I miss it. I missed them. I had so many wonderful conversations in the Millwood with people that I love. And I want to see that again. I want to see that again. So I'm asking you to please, don't just judge this by the income, because there will be an income. There are taxes. The Millwood would pay for taxes. And I happen to know that there are people who are interested in purchasing that building again for a restaurant. I know this is true. And I'm asking that you please consider this from that perspective. Remember that you have the opportunity to allow people from other countries to experience what it used to be like here in this country, in this part of the country, because that's what that Millwood was. That's what it was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Marlis.
Hello, my name is Marla Steelerond. I live at 41128 County Road, Cape Point 6. We are here once again to object to putting a marijuana dispensary at the Millwood site. As I have said before, even though we live outside the city limits, we do live here. We shop here, we work here, we support our local artisans. Don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against marijuana. I don't. However, I do believe there are different locations that could be utilized for a dispensary other than this site. The Millwood site is a focal point of our town. And I, for one, don't want my town to have the focal point for everyone that comes through here, whether they're from America or from Europe or from wherever, they're through there to be a marijuana dispensary right on the corner, the main focal point of our town. To be honest, I would rather see the building raised and they put up a gas station.
Okay, the next one on the agenda is Joe Delhonda.
And we can hear you through your masks, so go ahead and leave your mask on.
I can't hear anybody with these damn masks.
Well, leave your mask on, please.
About the only thing I have to say is that if Livewell is looking for exposure on the front, out by the highway, why not take over where Bum Diggity was? The building is sitting empty. Nobody in there, and it's got frontage coverage on the highway. And it's not the entrance to our town. That's about all I have to say.
Okay, so no one else then has signed up. I will then do the owners of Livewell want to speak up? Please state your name and address for the thing. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Anna Hatch. I'm general counsel for Livewell and a minority owner of the company. Address is 400 East 84th Avenue in Thornton, California, 80229. Livewell has been a part of the Mancos community since 2015, and we love being a part of your community. We serve your citizens, we serve your tourists, we employ your citizens, and we really love being a part of this community. It has come to a point where we do need to find a new location for our store. We did not set out to find the most contentious location that you possibly have. This is actually our second attempt to rehome this store, and we have, per the report, met all of the requirements, all of the setbacks, all of the distances. I know that there has been some conjecture that we are not 500 feet away from the park. However, we've had a professional surveyor come and do the measurement as designated in the code. Ms. Alvarez has likewise done a survey. So we have complied with all of the aspects of the code, including allowable location. As far as the concerns regarding the evacuation routes, we've had traffic surveys done, and there's no additional requirements because the traffic is about the same as it was when it was a restaurant. We see an empty building on the main corner of your town, and we're not trying to go above and beyond and make this a destination that's associated with marijuana, but marijuana is a part of your town, and we have been here. We're complying with all of the requirements, and we fully intend to continue to be a good neighbor. I hope that the board will recognize Livewell's involvement in the town and its commitment to the town and its compliance with all of the requirements for doing a transfer of location of this nature, and allow us to remain in Mancos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I will then close the public hearing at 7:40 and bring it back to the board for discussion. Grant, I'll start with you. Do you have any questions or comments?
I mean, looking here at the code and everything, they do meet every requirement that we set out in our code. So as far as that's concerned, I have no questions on that. And we do have a report by SGM, which is the survey company, which shows that it is 511 feet on this exhibit. So I don't have any questions with that. And I mean, as far as everything goes, they followed every rule that we've set out in our code. So I have no questions.
Denise?
Heather, I have one. Has anyone else even shown an interest in the building other than Livewell? Has someone else ever? I know it got sold after Millwood and the other owner, it didn't work out. So has anyone else even shown an interest?
Not to my knowledge, and I did have our economic development coordinator when she was very first hired, or retained, I should say. We reached out to a ton of businesses in Durango that we heard were interested in relocating, or closing because of COVID or whatever, and got no response there. We also worked with Region 9, Laura at Region 9, and the county said, do you know of anybody who's interested? So to my knowledge, no other interest, at least nobody who approached the town or responded to our outreach efforts.
Okay. Well, then, so I feel like this has been discussed around, the citizens have known for a while that we've had this going. I feel there could have been more done, citizens alliances. There could have been more working. If they knew this was coming, they could have reached out. Someone else could have come up with, what else to move into that building. So I just want to say to Livewell, you're a real Colorado story. I mean, when I've been researching this, I found out, and you guys have got a good story. I think what we're really discussing here is the nature of the business. I think what we don't like is having a cannabis store at the entrance of our town. Now, if it was going to be something like a hardware store, would we be having this? I think as I looked on to Livewell has done really well for Colorado. Colorado sales Yes.
Ma'am, would you please do me a favor?
Yes.
All you keep up there are maps. I can't read lips,
Oh,
but I would like to know who's speaking. And
okay.
I can't tell who's speaking because he looks like he's talking to you and you look like you're talking to him.
Okay.
But who
Okay,
are you talking to?
sir,
Okay,
sir,
Would you please what?
sir. This is a public meeting. We're having a discussion as a board. We have microphones up here. We're trying our best.
Yes, sir, but it would help if we would know if you're talking to us or to each other.
We are
If
talking.
you're talking to us, would you please rise? We have to.
Okay, sir, we are talking to us because we are the board that is making the decision.
Thank
Okay.
you. Sorry.
It's all right. So Janice, continue, please.
Okay.
And Janice is speaking. She'll raise her hand so you know who's speaking.
I'm speaking.
I want to stand up.
So Colorado sales in 2020 in the marijuana industry, cannabis, was $1 billion. And I know that does anybody know what $1 billion looks like? $1 billion in sales. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of zeros. That's nationwide, $21 billion. I think we have an industry that we cannot say, oh, go away, because I think it's our perception of what this industry is going to be for us. So I think it's one of the fastest growing. They're going to be bringing jobs. Maybe we can look at Livewell and ask them to like tone the signage down or do something. But I think for this kind of money, it's really hard to say. And the money they bring into our community, that is the most we get. So
if you guys can't be quiet, we will ask you to leave. Keep your comments to yourselves because we are talking up here. Your comments are interrupting us. So if you have to say something, either go outside or leave the building. And if it continues, we will clear the room. Thank you. Denise, go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess I was just, looking this at last year, how much money that this they brought to our town. I think our town deserves to have something that brings in some income and jobs and clean industry. So I'll stop there.
Ed.
It's twofold here. My first concern is we have two conflicting certified and surveyors. So that has to be rectified. We have two certified surveyors that have stated two different things. I would like to see that clarified.
Okay, let's stop right there. Heather, can you clarify that?
Are you talking about that citizen comment that we included in the packet?
Yes, from a certified surveyor that says it does not meet.
But they didn't include any.
Yeah, all it said was the state.
Details. Yes, it didn't say what it was or how far it was or what the amount, how they measured it. So it's not a complete.
Yeah, it's still somewhat of a concern. My other one is.
It's actually not legal if they don't state where they measured it from. It's actually not acceptable in the line of evidence because they do not tell how they measured it from what point to what point. So it's actually
But it does.
No, it doesn't.
Let me find it here. While I find that, the other thing is that this board is faced with a situation where public feelings are being very much voted or voiced not in favor. We cannot make our judgment based on people's feelings. We have to go what's accordance to the law. And if this facility meets all of the requirements set forth by the town statutes and the state of Colorado, it would be a situation where we have no other scenario other than to approve. So that's why I bring up that question that I had in regards to the other surveyor. I'm trying to find it on the damn tab here.
So it says it was measured along the route of most direct pedestrian access.
Right.
That being from the said Millwood restaurant southerly along North Main Street, then easterly along Bauer Avenue to the subject Boyle Park, location, the distance there too is well short. But it doesn't say from what point at the
But
restaurant.
it says, it's basically saying that they took the same route, you know, leaving the building, going down Main Street, going east on Bauer to the park. They're basically duplicating what this other surveyor has. That is my only concern, is that surveyors make errors, one way or the other. I would like to see personally a third survey to verify that it does or does not meet that requirement. Because I look at, you know, left and right. One surveyor who's signed it, documented as a certified surveyor, saying it doesn't. We have another one saying that it does. Unfortunately, the first one did not supply a map of how he did it, but his explanation of his route is identical to what this one has. So that's my concern. And like I said, as far as the town board approving this, that's the only crux that I see in here, is that everything else they have met, and we have, our hands are tied. We have no choice but to approve or face a lawsuit. It's not a situation where people's feelings are relevant to this. Unfortunately, it's a situation of do they or do they not meet the legal requirements. And that's it. It's difficult.
And I'm sorry, I didn't receive a survey. So
Pardon?
when they referenced the survey, I didn't receive a survey. I included everything that I gave you, which was just a letter. I didn't get the actual.
Right, no, and I'm just saying, you know, his statement, all he has just has a statement. He didn't say how many feet it met. So that's where I'm just saying, we've got a surveyor that says yes and a surveyor that says no.
Brent,
Was SGM our survey or their?
No, the SGM is the applicant survey.
Okay.
so Betsy,
Well, I agree with Ed in terms of the technicalities. I mean, I think since the issue's been raised, it's really important that we get another survey somehow and clarify this particular issue. And especially since it's the sticking point, because like Ed said, everything else has been met, every other requirement's been met. Aside from the survey issue, I appreciate and I had a question for the applicants, because they did make a very generous offer regarding the exterior of the building, the corner, the appearance of the building. And one of the things I know about somebody, I think it was Dawn, spoke earlier about the town and the artists and so on. And I do know that the Creative District has had some conversation about, after tonight, perhaps approaching Livewell and seeing, because it is the entrance to the Mancos Creative District, if there could be some real cooperation there, if this all goes through, to do something very visible that would enhance what we're all talking about here tonight, which is the preservation of the spirit of our town. So that's really all I have to say. I think it's important, though, that we confirm the survey issue.
okay, question. If it was any other business, would we require 2 surveys? Is the state law, the statute, the application, do we require 1? Do we require 2? Do we require 3?
Actually, the minimum requirement is the town clerk and the town marshal.
Okay.
That's how everything prior to this has been measured and agreed to.
And I understand that you and Justin measured it. What was your measurement?
508 feet.
Okay. So we have 2. 1 is what we require the marshal and the town clerk to measure. It's over 500 feet. We've got a certified surveyor that has measured it, and they say it's over 500 feet.
And if you'd like, I mean, I'm happy to reach out to the person who submitted the letter and see if there's a survey, but I didn't get a survey, so I gave you guys that. And Betsy, to answer your question, I did receive additional information, but it was related to building permits, construction, landscaping, that kind of thing. It was very outside the scope of this decision, but not outside the scope of the customer or the citizen concerns that I heard tonight. So you're welcome to talk to Livewell, and they'll give you whatever information they have or can. But there will be another process if this is approved. We still have building permits and landscaping, signage and monuments and that kind of thing.
So since they've brought up the issue of willingness to work with the town, I think we or the creative district or some combination thereof should take advantage of that opportunity.
We would be more than happy to do that. In the packet that we submitted for proposed signage, which of course will have to go through the permitting process and everything, we had actually suggested doing a monument sign for the town of Mancos on that corner there. That's absolutely something we would be more than happy to partner with the creative district.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Cindy?
Yeah, it just kind of echoing what some of my fellow, I'm speaking for anyone who wants to know. Zoning is a tricky thing, and if you don't really understand how zoning works, this can all be very frustrating and very emotional. But essentially, we have a zoning map for the town. This use meets the zoning for that. And so what we're hearing tonight is simply the request to transfer from one location to the next. And so it has a very limited scope. And Heather has supplied in the packet, and hopefully some of you read it online and stuff, that our town code citations of what this type of business has to meet, and that they've met all of those. All the other things, like, are the signs gonna be pretty? They have to meet our code. As long as everything they do meets our code, it's probably gonna happen at a staff level, because they meet our zoning. And so it would actually be, as Ed and several of my fellow trustees have said, it would actually be illegal for us to deny this tonight because they've met the sections of the code that they need to meet. And so when we took our oath of office, we agreed and gave an oath to uphold the laws of the town. And so we have to do that.
That's what our marshal swore to tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had evidence of it tonight, So I know it can be really emotional. I know it can be really difficult. But if it meets the zoning, it meets the zoning. And we don't have any legal authority to deny them. So.
Sorry about that.
So thank you.
Fred?
I can see that this is a very emotional issue, but to go with what Cindy was saying, they do actually meet all of the requirements to be licensed here. As far as the measurements, we use SGM for everything with the town, and they've never been in question before. So I would have to go with what Justin and Heather did and SGM. I'm not really questioning the amount of feet. I think it meets the code, and I think that we have a duty to go ahead and pass this. I mean, we can talk all night about not in my backyard. I can go on and on about Livewell and how they're a really good partner with the town. They fill out their forms, they pay their taxes, they give a generous veterans discount on their products. But at the end of the day, legally, we need to pass this.
Sir, you've had your chance. Public hearing is over. This is discussion between the board. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
The public hearing is over.
Oh, I see. Well, I have one question. I have one question.
All right, one question.
I want to know about the parking.
The what?
I want to know about the parking.
So that would be determined at a different time. That's part of them meeting our code for actually developing the site. That's what I was trying to explain when I was saying.
I understand that, but I just never heard you about the parking.
Right, because that's not germane to this discussion tonight. That's something that staff will work with them on the actual specific development of the property.
I know when you have a parking facility, they have a certain amount of parking space for a certain.
Okay.
This is not the time for this, guys.
That's not what we're talking about.
This is not that's not what we're talking about right now. That will be brought up with the owners when they come back to the town. So,
We gotta move on.
yes,
One question, please.
This is it, we're done.
this is it.
I'm still not understanding how close it is to a residence, the Dower House.
The Bear House
And
is,
that this is happening, I don't think that meets the code.
What's the zoning on the Bauer House?
What is it?
Commercial.
commercial.
I believe
It is not commercial.
Bower
The
House.
taxes on the Dower House have been paid as residential since 2001.
So here's the thing with assessor information. So zoning and actual use can be different. So if it is zoned commercial, then it's not a residential property, even if it's a residential use. And I know it's weird, and the assessor is going to assess property based on the actual use, not necessarily based on the zoning. And so we look at our zoning map and look at it that way when we're looking at these things. So that's why there's that disparity.
But it is not used as a commercial property.
But it's.
Right, but that's not what we're looking
as
at.
commercial. Heather.
Yeah.
We don't have a requirement, a distance requirement from the residential zone. We do prohibit marijuana establishments in a residential zone, but not a distance from a residential zone. So even though it's next door, because the zone is not residential, we do not have a distance requirement.
Yeah.
Can you direct me to where that is, which section in the code that is?
It will be 61060. Will outline all of the distance requirements that we use to review this.
Okay.
For retail marijuana, 61060.
So does anybody else on the board have anything they want to say? Or are we ready to entertain a motion?
I think we're ready.
I would entertain a motion then.
Let's see. Okay.
You said it was 61060? Yeah.
I move we approve the location amendment for 449 Railroad Avenue to 101 West Railroad, Mancos, Colorado, 81328 for Green Kiwi 5 LLC DBA Livewell, conditional upon state approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Brent McWhorter and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks to approve the location amendment from 449 Railroad Avenue to 101 West Railroad, Mancos, Colorado, 81328 for Green Kiwi 5 LLC, doing business as Livewell, conditional upon state approval. Heather, would you call the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Janice Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Helm.
Nay.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries by majority vote.
I'd like to emphasize why I voted no, and that's because I still see the special fee in the verification of the distance. If that was verified to me, I would vote yes. That was not.
Can you repeat that, please? I'm
You have to
so
be up
sorry, I
for
didn't hear you.
It will be in the minutes, and you can read the minutes later. We're going to move right along.
Or did you get what I said?
I'm sorry?
Did you get what I said? Someone
Yes,
said
you
they
voted
didn't.
against.
Yeah, I voted against. And my justification is that I still have a doubt of the surveys, two surveyors licensed in the state of Colorado.
But you should have given.
I would like to have seen that clarified. Otherwise, I would vote 100% for it if I had that. Because there was no other reason other than I can't, in confidence, say that SMG is right and the other's wrong. Because they're both certified surveyors.
Okay. One is in Arizona.
But he's a Colorado licensed certified.
Is he?
Yes, he's licensed in the state of Colorado, so.
And he has history with this board.
That was my only issue. Had he not been certified in the state of Colorado, I wouldn't have cared.
And best friends of Bobby.
Yeah, and he didn't present us
Yeah, we didn't get a survey.
No,
He just said,
right.
I did this survey.
And that's unfortunate, but he still is a surveyor that said he surveyed it and signed it and stamped it that said it doesn't. So therefore, he put himself in the same scenario as the other minus a map.
For me, he just put himself at a much larger set of risk.
Right, exactly. He set himself at more risk, but it's just, that's my only thing is that, you know.
I think for me, what we typically do is we have Heather and the marshal go out and measure, and they came up with over 500 feet. So that's where it ends for me.
Yeah.
It's great that the applicant had a surveyor that also came up with something over 500 feet, but,
well, I'd have been more
surveyors-
comfortable if we had paid for the survey to have it done in lieu of the.
But that doesn't count.
I know, it's not a requirement. I'm just saying that's my only discomfort in this whole scenario. Other than that, they met every requirement. I'm 100% understanding of it. It's just that one little question.
Yeah.
It just creates it.
Okay, well, we made our vote, carried, we're gonna move on. So next on the agenda is the 2020 work plan update.
So this was just included for your information. It is a final summary of the work plan that you guys receive every quarter with what the projects that we do, capital, that kind of
Hold on just a second, Heather. Joe.
Let there's kind of a hubbub, it's hard to hear you. Okay.
Yeah, Heather, you can continue.
Sorry, I'm just thinking because we're having an executive session and David is on Zoom. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is pause, mute, hold it, do an executive session,
And touch feed.
and then unmute, come back, but I'm sending him a text.
This pandemic and everything, it's like got everything all screwed up.
Sorry. 2020 work plan update. We give these to you every quarter throughout the year. Projects and capital improvements are in this work plan based on the budget that you all approved. So at the last meeting, we saw the 2021 work plan, just a, hey, here's what we look back for the rest of the year. This is 2020, which shows what we accomplished, what we postponed due to COVID. Things that we're still working on, carryovers to this year, that kind of thing. I did include some information. Justin gave us some information, some easily understood pie charts.
Oh my God, they're fabulous.
I know you guys love those.
I loved it. It's
so yeah,
great.
Justin included some of that. That's a summary of all the calls that they handled last year and types and that kind of thing. For the rest of it, it was just here's what we finished, here's what we put off to 2021, and here's what we're not doing for whatever reason. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions or wanted any additional information on anything. Yes.
So on the page, in the PDF, page 36 of 41, it has the bar charts for the 2020 citations.
Yes.
And I didn't do the math, but it looks like it's about 20 citations. Is that seriously the full number of citations? Because that seems really low.
No, I don't believe that's the full. Yes.
Yeah. I think you guys work a lot harder than that.
They've been asleep at the wheel.
You guys work really hard. I see you out there all the time, and I'm like, that cannot be right.
Okay, so what you guys saw in the work plan is the new software. So you gotta remember, we've only been using E4 since May, June.
Okay.
So these are also only the citations in that amount of time. So there's a discrepancy from, we're missing 6 months worth of data.
Gotcha.
But what happens is, from this point on, when you get your quarterly reports, you'll get a quarterly with a year-to-date.
Okay.
Also, I want you to be clear, because we have Mancos Municipal Court, and we also write citations into county court.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and keep it clear for court clerk purposes, we don't always create, very rarely do we create citations that go into county court. So that way we're not inundating Heather and Georgette with all of these citations that we write. And we try and keep the court separate, because then they have to go through and decide, is this a municipal docket or is this a county docket?
So with these 30, I just did a quick, I think it's 30.
Those would all be just maintenance.
In town for our judge. Okay.
Now, also remember, because of COVID and staff safety concerns, we limited our traffic stops to things that we absolutely were going to write.
Okay.
So we weren't out just contacting vehicles to contact vehicles. We were stopping vehicles that deserved a citation for the officer that was making the stop.
Okay.
So, and if you look at our calls for service and dispatch, they're a little down from where we normally are, which is good because our bills did.
Yeah.
But the COVID's been a funky year for everybody.
Yeah.
So I want you to see, but if you look at the pie chart with our total case stuff, it's definitely different than from what we've done. It has all of the citations in there broken out into the graph. And again, I'm learning E-Force, so the graphs may be a little light than what they could have actually truly been.
Okay.
So bear with me on that, but I wanted to show you what the software you purchased could do.
Yeah.
So that's what this is doing.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I just was like, God, you guys are a lot busier than that. So I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was really looking at. So thank you.
And the other thing I can do for the board is I can try and also show what we do, what we write in the county court. But it's going to take some more learning on my end to continue to get you the most accurate reports I can get you.
That sounds good. Thank you.
The other thing I think is good for us is that I've never had any real knowledge of what our judge does in terms of caseload and so on. This gives us an idea of, you know, why we have a judge here and what we're doing.
Yeah, what are we paying for? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Just as an update on the work plan, at one of the February meetings, we're also putting together a work plan for the economic development coordinator. Even though she's, even though she's an independent contractor, and we don't direct her like staff and everything, I still, she really wants to make sure you guys know what she's doing, you're happy with the direction she's going in. So we put together a similar document for economic development, and we'll be bringing that to you guys for your feedback, since it's the first time we've done that. We'll also be bringing you the incentives that we started talking about pre-COVID. She's going to flesh those out, making them user-friendly. So we'll be bringing you guys that information at a February meeting. So you'll see a little bit more on economic development as well.
Nice.
I think what I'm going to need to do when we're ready to go into executive session is I'm going to end the stream for everybody listening online. I'm going to end the stream on YouTube. And I am going to try to set up a breakout room on Zoom to prevent anybody except for you and David from hearing the executive session. When we are ready to come out of executive session and open back into open meeting, I will restart a stream on YouTube and I will try my best to get rid of the breakout room and hope that I don't log anybody off. If I accidentally log somebody or end this Zoom meeting, I will restart it prior to coming back into open meeting. So those who are on the line right now, or on the Zoom meeting right now, bear with me and I'm gonna do my best.
So you see how many people are on Zoom right now?
I do, I have Lance Miller.
Well, like names don't
three of
bother
them.
me.
I have three.
Three, okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try my best for those three.
Do we have a way to test that the breakout room actually like cuts the sound to the?
Well, and that's my concern.
Because Adobe Connect today was allowing breakout room voices to go to other breakout rooms, and so that's a little bit of a concern.
See, I tested it once. The only thing that I can do is end this meeting and restart this same meeting. Again, when we come back. The problem is that the three who are online right now will not.
They won't know. Yeah.
When we start back up. So.
Can you just mute? No. Could you mute the meeting and have David call in?
Well, that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna hope that it works.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Instead of doing like a breakout room, just mute that entirely.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do, except I don't know if they read it through here, or if they read it through here. So I'm gonna do my best. Yes, Fred, I'm so sorry, you guys.
Is it imperative that we have an executive session tonight?
No, we can also put this off another night. This is just.
I mean, it's just on water rates, so could we talk about it some other time?
We can. We can talk about it.
Let's do that once we dial it in. No, have a better comfort.
All right, I'm so sorry.
Well, I'd rather do it when David's here too. Just to,
we can do that
for sure.
Lucky.
It's hard with the phone
It's
sometimes
just,
to hear.
Yeah, it's so much less awkward.
David, did you hear that? We're going to.
I did.
We're going to continue the executive session to the next meeting. We're going to continue it to February 10th. We have to continue to date certain, correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Hey, we can hear you, David.
Do we need to
It's
make,
a voice in this.
do we need to make a motion for that, or?
I do need a motion to continue the executive session to February 10th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Ed Hallam and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks and trustee Brent McWhorter to cancel the executive session tonight and move it to the February 10th meeting. Heather, would you call the vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Fred Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee Denise Bryan.
Aye.
Trustee Betsy Harrison.
Aye.
Trustee Cindy Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Ed Hallam.
Aye.
Trustee Brent McWhorter.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is items for the February 10th. We have the joint workshop with the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners, and that is at 5:30.
Apparently we have an executive session.
So the motion said.
And the committee reports, Region 9, CDOT, and TPR, January bills and claims, and we will have an executive session. Number 4, do we have anything else?
Could you take CDOT off of there? It won't be until the day after that meeting.
Oh, yes. And I will have a change order request in the amount of $25,000 for the water treatment plant design and engineering. We have a grant to cover right now to cover everything 100%, but we have had to do some extra work. So I will have some details for you guys at the next meeting, but I will be asking for $25,000 out of reserves. The rest is covered by grant. So that will be on the next agenda.
Have you heard from DOLA?
I'm sorry?
Have you heard from DOLA on your presentation?
No, know. And when we presented to DOLA, what I found out is they had 24 million dollars in requests, and they have $13 million to give away. So it's going to be a tight schedule. And at the end of the hearings, the committee talks about it, and there was talk about the tight funding available and how do we fund the projects that have to be done right now and what can be put off till next year. So then the committee makes their recommendations to Rick Garcia, who's the executive director of DOLA. He's the one who makes the ultimate decision, and sometimes he uses the committee rec, sometimes he doesn't, so we have no clue, and I will probably not hear until February sometime.
Heather did a nice presentation. I sat in on it just as a listening and to let them know that she had the board's support. She did a really nice presentation to the DOLA board to ask for a grant. Okay, anybody else have anything to add? I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. I think we needed to be here to make this decision, and I do appreciate everybody's comments and.
Of course, it comes with this job.
Right, it does come with this job, and I know we're not supposed to go to feelings, and I know each and every one of us had feelings regarding this. There's no way that we can't, because we're human and it affects us too. But we had to vote the law, and I'm very proud of you guys as board members tonight. And next is, go ahead, Cindy.
If I can just mention something, because I have been on the calling in, and I know some people have been here. Ed, when you sit way back, we can't hear you at all.
I just try to be social distance, but yeah, I understand that.
But like,
I
you
forget
gotta
about
be
that.
up, yeah, because we're broadcasting to the world now, so I think we all need to be really cognizant of the fact that, you know, we need to be talking toward the microphones, we need to be close to them so people can hear. And then watch papers and stuff, because and like thumping on the table, because it just amplifies like crazy for what we're broadcasting. So, you know, it's kind of this new world that we're doing, and so yeah, we have to be really careful. Right, and all the thumps and whacks, and you know, it just amplifies out there. So.
Right.
Well, congratulations to our new deputy.
Yeah. He's gone.
Oh, he left?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you got 10 left.
We scared him away.
He's celebrating.
Okay.
Those that are over have to be.
All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
And your social.
Does Betsy need to sign?
No, just two people.
So, my first year in the